Imagine the situation. A young soldier during training. His phone lies in his pocket with the familiar Max Messenger open. He writes to his family, "Everything is fine, don't worry." But here's the problem. Those words may be read not only by his mother or wife. They may end up in foreign data centers far beyond Russia's borders, in California, in Santiago. And no one even thinks that every such message could become part of a massive data leak. At first glance, Max seems harmless. A convenient app, modern design, many functions. The developers claim security first, but when it comes to verification, reality turns out to be quite different. Recently, an independent specialist, an expert with more than 20 years of experience in computer technical research, Anton Kolmikov, conducted his own examination of this messenger. His goal was simple: to understand whether Max is safe for use in the army, security services, and defense enterprises. After all, if in places where state secrets and strategic information are at stake, employees use unsafe software, the consequences could be catastrophic. For the test, he took an ordinary smartphone running Android 14, installed the application, and connected a network traffic filter. It seemed simple, but that very step revealed the key issue. According to the expert, the Max Messenger actively connects to external resources, and among the addresses appear not only neutral servers. Among them, nodes in the USA, state of California, as well as servers in Chile, Santiago. And here's the most interesting part. From a cybersecurity perspective, any connection to foreign servers is already a risk. But in this case, we are talking about an application that could be used by soldiers, officers, and engineers, directly tied to infrastructure under the jurisdiction of states that Russia officially considers unfriendly. What does this mean in practice? Every message, every file transfer, every call may pass through foreign data centers, which means they can potentially be analyzed, copied, stored. Even if the data is encrypted, there is always a risk of backdoors or vulnerabilities, especially considering that the world has already seen dozens of cases where companies were forced to hand over information to intelligence services on request. The expert makes a loud conclusion. The Max Messenger is dangerous for use by servicemen, security officers, judges, investigators, employees of defense enterprises, and even their families. But this is only the beginning of the story. In his report, Kolmikov went further. He linked the promotion of the Max app to the activities of international organized crime groups that previously promoted slot machine software in Russia. And that already sounds like a true conspiratorial version. That is why his study caused such a resonance. The question now is not only about the safety of smartphones, but also about possible state treason. To understand the seriousness of the situation, one must look in detail at how the study was carried out. And here it is important. The expert did not rely on rumors or guesses. He carried out a full technical analysis. Anton Kolmikov is a respected figure in his field. His career as a computer technical expert began back in 2000 in the Samara police. Later, he worked at the Center for Scientific Expertise of Automated Technologies. He holds an active certificate confirming his qualification. This is not a hobby blogger or journalist. This is a specialist who knows how to record results properly so that they can be used in court. What did he do? He took an ordinary Tecno LH7N smartphone with Android 14.0.0. Not a special test device, but a mass-market one. He installed the Max Messenger on it and enabled a firewall-type program to monitor network connections. No root access, no hacking. Just tools any attentive user could employ. After launching the application, the analysis began. And here is the key finding. Max connects to remote servers. This is normal for any messenger, but the geography raised alarms. Among them were data centers in the USA, California, as well as servers in Chile, Santiago. Why would a messenger, positioned as a universal communication tool, connect specifically there? The developers did not provide an answer, but the fact is recorded. The connection exists, traffic flows, data is transmitted. It is important to understand. This is not only about messages. Messengers usually transmit metadata, users' IP addresses, device identifiers, geolocation, phone model. Even if the message itself is encrypted, these wrappers can say a lot about a person. And when such apps are used by soldiers, officers, or defense industry employees, the leakage risk becomes enormous. And that's not all. In his study, Kolmikov pointed out a worrying parallel. In forensic practice, there are well-known cases where organized crime groups from California promoted gaming software in Russia, disguised as entertainment. In fact, these were online slot machines through which money and data flowed abroad. Now, according to the expert, the situation may be repeating in a new format. Under the guise of a convenient messenger, Russians are being pushed software tied to the same regions. Kolmikov concludes, the promotion of the Max app in Russia may be happening through the same international schemes as with illegal software before, which means, in perspective, this is not only an IT security issue, but also a matter of criminal law. By the way, the expert himself notes that he conducted the research in the interests of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation and participants of the special military operation to improve protection. His goal was to warn of threats, not just to make money from the discovery, although he did mention separately that the developer company promised a monetary reward for identifying critical vulnerabilities. But in practice, when Kolmikov reported the problem, they answered, if you disclose the results, no payment will be made. That is precisely why the study was made public. The expert considered the risks too great to remain silent. When the results became public, the first reaction was predictable: disbelief and skepticism. So what if the app connects to California? Does that prove anything? Some wrote. Others asked an even sharper question. Which modern app doesn't work through foreign data centers? And yes, there's some truth here. Today, almost any messenger or social network uses the infrastructure of global cloud giants: Amazon, Google, Microsoft. Servers are distributed worldwide, and routes can lead anywhere. But here it is crucial to underline the difference. If we are talking about an app positioned as a secure messenger for the domestic market and even for security forces, then any connections to unfriendly jurisdictions must be excluded. This is Cybersecurity 101. The reaction among professionals was also mixed. Some supported Kolmikov's conclusions, saying yes, the risks are real and serious. Others pointed out that the study lacked deep analysis of the traffic contents. We see the connection, but we don't know what data goes overseas. Still, the very framing of the issue forces reflection, because this is not the first time that a supposedly secure app has turned out to be linked to foreign infrastructure. Remember TikTok, when it became clear that user data regularly went to servers in China. Or the many cases of spyware apps disguised as flashlights or calculators that collected contacts, photos, and messages. In the case of Max, another alarming element is the parallel with organized crime. Kolmikov reminded, it was through California that gaming programs once flooded into Russia, turning smartphones into pocket casinos. These apps not only drained users' money, but also created channels for data leakage. Today we see similar geography, only instead of slots and roulette, a messenger. And now, the key point. In his report, the expert states, the problem is not limited to the app itself. The question is, who is promoting it? After all, Max is advertised in the Russian market, and the app is rapidly gaining an audience. If this is being done by structures close to state or security agencies, then suspicion naturally arises. Do they even realize what they are promoting? Here comes the loudest phrase, state treason. Kolmikov directly writes that a criminal case should be opened not against nameless developers, but against employees of the FSB's Center for Information Security and other participants promoting the app. Such a statement lands like a bomb, because in effect it means that the country's information security system might contain a hole leading straight to foreign servers. And if true, this is not mere negligence, it is sabotage of defense capacity. Media and Telegram channels quickly picked it up. Some said it was a leak to the West. Others claimed it was part of a bigger game, with certain forces inside the country deliberately opening doors for foreign software. And some saw it as a personal conflict. The expert didn't get his money, so he went public. But whatever the motivation, the fact remains. The Max messenger connects to servers in the USA and Chile, and that fact cannot be ignored. Here the story takes an especially interesting turn. At first, Kolmikov did not intend to cause a public scandal. He followed the rules. The developer of Max had openly stated, if specialists found vulnerabilities or critical problems, they would receive financial reward. This is how bug bounty programs work worldwide. Kolmikov, having identified risky interactions with US and Chilean servers, contacted the legal entity, LLC Communication Platform. On August 12, 2025, he officially reported the results and demanded the promised payment. It seemed fair. The specialist found a problem, reported it, and expected a reward. But here came the failure. The response he received sounded like a cold shower. They wrote, "The reward is possible only on the condition of keeping secrecy. If results are disclosed publicly, no financial reward is provided." In other words, either the expert stays silent and gets money, or he tells the truth and gets nothing. For Anton Kolmikov, the choice was obvious. He declared that the risks were too high to keep secret, and he published his study openly in the interests of the Ministry of Defense, security agencies, and citizens. But that step made the story explosive. Some saw him as a hero who sacrificed personal gain for national security. Others as an adventurer seeking attention. But the fact remains, the vulnerability data became public, and the developer company ended up in a very uncomfortable position. Now it was impossible to bury the scandal. If the information had remained in correspondence, it could have been quietly shelved. But after publication, the study spread to media and Telegram channels, and experts and journalists began discussing it. And here arises the question: if the company really has nothing to hide, why did it insist on keeping secrecy? Why not publish an explanation, present technical proof to the contrary? Instead, silence and an attempt to intimidate with refusal of payment. For the expert himself, this was also a trial. On one hand, he fulfilled his duty and raised the alarm. On the other, he broke an unwritten IT rule: don't air dirty laundry in public. Still, Kolmikov states bluntly, the level of threat is too high. An app that may be used by military and officers is tied to foreign servers. This is a risk not only for specific users but for the whole national security system. Thus, the study turned from a technical analysis into a true information bomb. And now the question is not whether the expert will get his money. The question is, how will the state react to this publication? So far, it looks more like a failure. The company lost reputation, instead of payouts came scandal, and Max found itself at the center of debates on national security threats. So, let's conclude. An independent examination showed the Max Messenger, actively promoted among users in Russia, works through servers located in the USA and Chile. For an ordinary person, this may seem trivial. So what, many say, almost all apps use foreign data centers. But when it comes to servicemen, security officers, defense engineers, even judges or investigators, such a risk becomes critical. Every message, call, file transfer can potentially pass through infrastructure controlled by unfriendly states. Anton Kolmikov, a specialist with more than 20 years of experience, was not afraid to state this openly. His conclusions are unambiguous. The Max app is dangerous for use in structures tied to national security. He goes further, directly writing about the need to open criminal cases against those who allowed the promotion of the messenger in Russia. These words sound harsh, but they raise the central question: who is responsible? The developers who brought the app to market? Security officials who allegedly turned a blind eye to its architecture? Or those who initially wanted to hide the results under the pretext of monetary reward for silence? Today, this story looks like a warning signal. We have already seen cases where foreign companies, through seemingly harmless apps, gained access to colossal amounts of data. TikTok in China, Zoom in the US, dozens of other services, all eventually ended up in scandals. Max risks becoming just such a case. The expert did his job, tested, recorded, published. Now it's up to the state and society. Will there be a reaction? Will the warning be heard? Or will the messenger continue quietly gaining audience until one day a leak occurs, the consequences of which will be irreversible? And here the appeal is to you, the viewer. Imagine your personal chats. Photos and calls are not just your private life. They may be of interest to those who build policies against your country. And if it concerns the military and special services, then it's about lives and national security. The question remains open. What is more important? The convenience and glossy advertising of a messenger or national security? And who will ultimately be held responsible if tomorrow it turns out that the data of millions of Russians had for years been flowing overseas? Oh,